I watched on the History Channel. There's actually, the government keeps a list of preppers.
Really?
Yeah. For emergencies, they figure out who they are. They have them on the list.
Oh, for good reasons.
Not always. Because
Really?
if it came in 2012, I believe, Obama signed pretty much martial law into order.
What?
Yeah. Did you know this? You
No,
didn't know
what?
this? Okay. So in 2012, Obama signed martial law into order. And you can put that in, you can Google that, Obama martial law. I can't remember which executive order it was an executive order. And what that says is during an emergency, or a catastrophe was the language. During a catastrophe, essentially the Constitution is suspended. And
Are you talking about Bush, though?
No.
Presidential Directive 51?
No, I'm not. I'm talking about Obama did this in 2012 in an executive order. So essentially that puts suspending Constitution. I mean, people think, oh, this is great. This is going to be anarchy, but it just means that the government can do whatever it wants because the Constitution limits the government. It doesn't give you rights.
Right.
So, yeah, he signed that into order. So once that kind of happened, they started making lists, and like camps like or places like FEMA. Most of what they do is actually prepping. Most of what they do is prepping for disasters. They have camps. It's what they do. It's not all like aiding people for floods. It's mostly what they do is like preparing for like the end of the world is what FEMA does. And a lot of people don't know that. But yeah, the Obama signed the executive order, and I was going somewhere with that, and I completely forgot.
Well, you know what Directive 51 is?
No, what?
This was George W. Bush signed. It's Presidential Directive 51. National Security Presidential Directive 51 allows the president to overthrow the government in the event of certain circumstances.
Oh, so Obama's was just like more of that.
Yeah, that's why I don't. That's why I find that strange because it's like, well,
and
any
they just
president,
quietly sign them and then go about their way, like in essentially
no protests.
No, nothing like that. And essentially, if that happens, there's nothing that we can do, and they can come in and take whatever the preppers have. They can take all those supplies and do whatever they want with them.
Well, I mean, anybody with a gun could if everything broke down.
Exactly. If the Constitution's suspended, then.
Well, no, I mean, if the apocalypse came.
Oh yeah, it'd be a
Constitution's going to be a piece of paper.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
The government's not going to care. Mm-hmm. Do you know about the game Fallout? Have you ever played Fallout or anything like that?
I've never played it, but I do know that they did film part of it in my hometown.
Film?
Yeah, they do this like.
Oh, right. When they did Fallout 4, it was in Boston.
Yep. And they did take parts of Western Mass too.
Yeah.
And
cool.
Yeah, they got in there and they did some filming.
Well, so there's a faction called the Enclave, which is like remnants of the old government and like the elites and everything. And that's what's going to happen. If there's like a major catastrophe, the first thing that'll happen is the president will probably activate Directive 51, which allows the creation of a single branch government. Mm-hmm. It's supposed to be a constitutional government.
Oh.
And its implementation is supposed to be in the circumstance of like mass loss of life or economic catastrophe or something.
Yep.
So the general idea is that the U.S. government will persist in the event of global chaos.
Yep.
But it opens the door for unchecked absolute power because theoretically, if there's a massive loss of life in China, Trump could be like, I'm overthrowing the American government and creating a new government if I want to.
Yep.
Now, I'm only saying Trump is president now. I don't want to play this stupid game that the left plays. We're like, Trump's a dictator. No, any president could do it.
Yep.
Obama could have done it. Bush could have done it. And now who comes after Trump could do it. And so we could, I mean, I'm going to say it. It's possible Trump is president for life.
Yeah.
Let's say coronavirus really does reach 60% of the global population. With a 2% mortality rate, we're looking at 93 million dead. And then Trump says, and seriously, not because they want to accuse him of being desperate, but he seriously says, we're facing such a great and massive threat with this massive loss of life. We have to suspend, elections. We've got to shut down. We got to secure the borders, and we got to go overtime because this is an apocalyptic event, right?
And there'll still be protests about securing the borders.
Yeah, I know.
There'll still be.
That's the craziest thing to me. Like right now, we've got the coronavirus, and we're trying to track it. Are people still going to be upset with CBP, Customs and Border Protection?
Yep.
No, we really do need them, especially now. And it's also the crazy thing, too. It's like a lot of people coming in aren't vaccinated.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of reasons why we want to guard our borders. We're not in a magic world of, candy canes and rainbows and lovey-dovey, whatever.
And I get it. And I mean, as a minarchist personally, I believe the government's purpose is three things. It's military, defense, and then the courts, justice, police, that sort of thing. That's where I believe that we would need, that's where the founders believe we would need a functioning government, is just in that facet, the very, so little government you can barely see it. That's what Rand Paul says.
What about regulations?
I mean, there's places that I think that is overkill, and there's places that I'm like, okay, you know, I personally am okay with that. Like if,
But like, what happens when you get too many, and then you have a massive government?
yeah, I mean, it's just gotta be able to draw lines in appropriate places.
Because I was talking to some Trump supporters, and I can't remember exactly what was said, but they said something like, if you can persuade someone to hand over their money, that should be your right. That's a free market.
Yeah.
And I said, I disagree with that, because then you get fraud and you get liars. So there's got to be some limits. And they were like, if someone's stupid and gives up their property, that's their fault, not yours. And I was like, so you realize the media operates on that principle, right? That they lie about the president all day and night to get those ad clicks. They'll call Donald Trump the worst names in the book so that these angry and outraged people will get angrier and angrier.
And get their confirmation bias when they click on
Yep. They wrap them up in this bias bubble to manipulate them so that they can make money. So shouldn't that be wrong? And they're like, well, you know, that's actually, and I'm like, right. Like, I don't think they should. It's tough, because in the instance of the media, I can recognize it's wrong, but there's a First Amendment right. But then if you have, like, you know, a company that sells snake oil, yeah, I don't think they should be allowed to do that, because, yeah, people are dumb. But I think the issue is not so much whether regulation is good or bad. It's where the line is on too much and what should be regulated. Ultimately, it's not about, you know, regulation bad. It's kind of like, well, some are, some aren't. And we just need to keep working through the system to figure out what is and what isn't, you know, appropriate.
And the thing about libertarianism, it's not anarchy. It's not like pure unfettered anarchy. That's not libertarianism. Libertarianism is like, okay, where could a functional government be useful? Like, I mean, for me personally, when it comes to courts and justice, if we privatize the courts, can you imagine how dirty and, I mean, they're already bad enough in some places. You know where it's bought out, what's bought and paid
to the
for.
highest bidder.
Now, yes, exactly. You know, I'm like, so a place like that, I'm like, okay, well, it needs checks and balances, and if the only way to do that is to publicly, you know, make it the government, then there you go. I mean, unless there's some sort of
force transparency.
Yeah.
It's really tough, because the way I see government versus the private sector is there's very little difference. And that's what I think a lot of people on the left don't seem to understand. Now, I would have said the right maybe 10 years ago, but I think it's definitely changed with the
switched.
modern version of the right. Not so much that it switched, but like it used to be that I would say the left and the right both misunderstand, because the right says government bad, the left says corporation bad. And I'm like, they're just institutions.
Yeah.
However they're controlled or implemented, the power they have is the power they wield. It doesn't matter if it's the government doing it or a massive conglomerate doing it. Today, I look at Republicans and they're like, unchecked power from these massive tech companies is a dangerous thing. And also the government. Yep. And I'm like, okay. And then up to the left, and they're like, government good, tech companies good, monopolies good. And I'm like, what is going on?
There's an interesting, I think it was brought up at Minds in Real Life this summer. And a big tech Bill of Rights, or an
internet Bill
of Rights. Yes, that's what it was. And it sounded, you know, like, okay, well, because everything they're in is terms and service, and it's completely subjective. It's at their whim. It's like, well, this is hate speech when you say it, but it's not hate speech when they say it. You know, things like that. And it's like, nobody knows what's safe to say, and you're always on eggshells. So it's like, all right, we'll create an internet Bill of Rights, you know, and figure out what is.
It's so obviously one-sided. It's so obvious that censorship from private companies is one-sided. And for whatever reason, because it empowers them, today it's the left saying good.
Yeah.
And so there was Zero Hedge?
Yes. They got banned.
They got banned for publishing public information about a researcher.
Oh, wow.
But I did think they said something like about showing up at their door or something like that.
Oh.
So the point is, you see it over and over again.
Yep.
You know, James O'Keefe got banned for publishing FEC records. Like, that's insane.
Wow.
And he was forced to delete it.
It's material that they don't want you to see.
Or no, it's just they're biased.
Yeah.
Veritas is wrong and bad, so they're going to suspend him on Twitter.
Yep.
Meanwhile, the ideologues on the other side get a free pass.
Yeah. And then, like, what do you do? Everyone's like, well, create a new social media site. It's like, okay, so you go to the new social media site. How long, though, until that one, you know, might get bought up?
Yep.
Because that's what.
Well, not bought up, but they're shutting them down.
That too, and so you think of like Facebook bought Instagram, like, okay, there's two huge platforms right now owned by the same person. Like,
it's not just that though. It's what makes a website work is a huge chain.
Yep.
You've got like when it came to, I think, Gab, maybe could be wrong. No. This was, I think, the Daily Stormer. Google actually seized their domain. Google did, like, had no right to do this.
Wow.
And they're like, too bad.
I guess it's like the wild, wild west on the internet because there is no bill of rights.
You've got your hosting service. You've got domain name service, your registrar. Then you've got financial services.
Yep.
And even Google is in the way.
Yep.
Any one of these can be like, we've banned you. And then all of a sudden your website doesn't exist anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's the terrifying future that we're actually digging into. And for some reason, you have this world where it was George W. Bush who created, Directive 51.
Yeah.
Obama who expands upon it, apparently.
Yes.
And now what is this strange world where the Democratic Party became the party of the wealthy? The Republican Party is the populist movement. The left is championing massive corporations and government.
It's because of their confirmation bias.
I don't know. This is the big problem I have with the big problem I have with the Bernie Sanders people is the massive government control.
Yep.
Socialism is good, they say, and it's like, why would you monopolize power within any institution, let alone with one with a monopoly on violence?
Yep.
Not interested. It's like how they simultaneously call for gun control, and then they want, they say Trump's a fascist. Trump should take all our guns.
All of them.
All of them. Every single one. Like in Virginia, they wanted to ban even like semi-automatic handguns, and they called them assault weapons. Like, that's insane. Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. We're live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And if you want to catch the full recorded podcast, which doesn't appear in these clips, make sure you join by clicking the button down below, become a member, and then go to the community tab of this YouTube channel, and you can see all of our full episodes. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you want to get more clips like this. Thanks for hanging out, and we will see you all in the next show.